What is going on YouTube? Carter here with Edged Mindset. Got another video for you. We are going to be comparing two different SMFs here today. These are both what I would call new production SMFs. These are post-Strider split, and both of these were produced this year in 2022. So similar, both are SMFs. On the left here, we have a MSC Strider custom knife, and on the right here, we have a production Strider. There's quite a bit of similarities between these two, and it's kind of cool that I'm able to compare these. This one is being shipped off. It's been sold, so I've got it for limited time, so I wanted to feature it in a video before it leaves me. And I feel like it would be beneficial to do a comparison between these two knives, just in case somebody's into Striders and they're wondering what the differences are with a custom Strider. What do they get? What do they not get? So their expectations are met, hopefully, and they're not disappointed, or they're also surprised, maybe would be cool too. So we'll start with, oh, by the way, Strider Knives is still producing knives. Obviously, these were both made. They're just doing it in very limited production. It's being headlined by MSC Strider. There's a production knife division and then a custom knife division. They're separate, but the same, but separate, right? If that makes any sense. So on the right here, we've got a Tanto SMF, and she is a beauty. So on this side, we have the titanium lock face. It has the tiger striping, or I guess not tiger striping, but the lined anodization that they're so known for. Gives you a little bit of color, a little bit of texture and depth, but it's not overly bright. So they do a good job kind of creating a muted anodization here in a pretty cool pattern. All the same features that you would typically expect: lock bar stabilizer, the hinder or lock bar stabilizer. Got a stamped pocket clip with a single screw construction here. On the front side, this is aluminum. This particular version is aluminum. You can also get these in G10. Like usual, though, it is milled out of an entire thick billet of aluminum in this case instead of G10. For the aluminum ones, they do the back screws right into the aluminum rather than doing the female piece on this side, or I guess the old ones was the opposite, male through here, and then the female would come through here. The blade on this is a Tanto blade, like I mentioned, with tiger striped sandblasting on it. You can see the M Strider. This is what appears on all new production Striders. Even the production ones say M Strider. Has the smaller stop pins on here than the old school ones. And then the blade steel on this one is CPM 154. That one's less important because these are available in multiple steel types. This one happens to be CPM 154. This one happens to be CTS XHP. You can get production Striders in CTS XHP. In fact, my SNG is in that steel. So for the purposes of this video, we're going to consider that same. So over here, we've got a Nightmare Ground Tanto custom, MSC Strider custom, double gunner grip. So this time we've got two pieces of titanium. Both sides feature the gunner grip texture, which are these divots that are milled into it. The whole thing is bead blasted or sand blasted, and then the flats are kind of sanded to give you a two-toned look. This one, however, is a flow-through design. It uses pillars instead of a single block of titanium on there. All of these are titanium as well. I don't think the screws are, but the pillars, standoffs, those are titanium. Lock bar stabilizer, all the same stuff. You've got the titanium stamped pocket clip, but this time we have MSC MSC Strider custom knives, laser engraved into it. Gunner grip on this side as well, and yes, this is a pocket shredder. That's what these are known for. You used to be able to get this in production back in the long golden days, but I don't think this is available on the titanium side in the production knives. I could be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. On the blade, we have a CTS XHP steel. It is a Tanto. It features the Nightmare Grind, which is a compound grind. So you have flat up here, and then you have a hollow grind right here. More slicey, less slicey. Really well done, though. Look how thin that secondary bevel is. This is like so thin behind the edge. Really, really nice. And this one features 3 serrations right there on the hollow ground portion. You can see how perfect that secondary bevel is. Really, really done well. So this is hand ground by MSC, right? You can see how even the grind is if you look at the distance here, if you look at the distance here. Look at the arrow, very, very even grind. He is really, really good at grinding. It also has this notch kind of at the top here, which is really just for looks. This features the same smaller stop pin. This has different pivot hardware. It doesn't have the standard spanner that you would see on a production SMF. This has just this double screw head here. I think the inner dimensions of this pivot are the same as this, but you can actually take this one down with just 2 Allen keys instead of needing a special spanner tool. And you can kind of see there's a nice finish on that pivot. It's kind of a cool satin kind of glowy type finish on there. So both SMFs, so the dimensions of both these knives are the same, right? There's no difference there. Pretty much the exact same. So what are the differences between these two, other than the obvious, right? Other than the fact that this is a hand ground blade, it has the Nightmare grind, Mick Strider touched it, Mick Strider worked on it, it's got the double titanium here. What else do you get? Well, I mean, nothing super substantial, but I will say they are tuned differently. The Mick Strider Custom is smoother, and it's also more delicate, more refined, I guess you would say. Has a lighter detent, so that when you open this up, there's like no resistance to get the blade started. It just kind of opens right up. Whereas the Production Strider has a pretty strong detent. You've got to kind of pop past that, and then you can open it up as well. It's not a huge difference. It's just kind of one of those things you notice when you handle them both side by side. But this one has just a lighter kind of touch to it, both in the detent and the action as well. This one is perfectly centered if you can see there. This one is slightly off, not too bad, just a little off towards the show side. I would consider those pretty much 6s. I don't know. I think you're more likely to get one slightly off center on the production models than you would on the customs, but neither one has any sort of issue. This one actually doesn't have any detent movement, but it is pretty common to get a little bit of detent movement in the Production Striders. I have that on my other SMF, I have that on my SNG, and I've had them pretty much every Production Strider I've had in the past. You're not really going to get that on here. There's no movement. It's completely tight. The detent is a little weaker, like I mentioned, but it is no play, nothing like that. The other thing I'm going to mention is lockup. You're going to get super, super early lockup on the Mick Strider Custom. On the Production, you may or may not get an early lockup. This one's about 40%. Sometimes it's earlier, sometimes it's later. One difference, though, is that this lock bar is going to move pretty rapidly, especially when you get it new, because the interface is a lot smaller. So these Production Striders really only interface on the top corner here. Let me see if I can illustrate that with, no, I can't really do that. I've got marker on this one to prevent the stick, but it really only interfaces on this back corner here. Maybe you get like 2 or 3/8 of an interface. Whereas on the Custom Strider, I don't know if you can see it. It's a little bit light, but all the way across this entire lock face, it is interfacing. So all the way across here. So it's a completely different lock geometry. What does that mean? Well, that means that this is not going to wear out nearly as quick as this one. You're getting way more lock surface. So even though this one's earlier, you're getting way more contact on here. And so it's a little more secure. And then it's also less likely to cause any issues in terms of wearing out and moving over and things like that. Really, that's about it. Essentially, these are very much the same knives. This one is just a Mick Strider handled and ground, tuned a little bit finer, whereas this one's a little more rough and tumble, right? So it literally is a gentleman's Strider, is what I would kind of say. Has a little bit more of a delicate touch to it. It's geared more towards clean EDC use, meaning I don't mean carrying it around in a suit and tie or anything, just lighter kind of professional type use, maybe somebody that works in an office, right? Part of the philosophy behind this lock face and why they do it this way is it's to help prevent debris from getting in here and messing up this lock, right? The least amount of contact surface means the least amount of debris that can get in the way of it, allows things to be pushed out. That's the concept. I I don't know if that's true. I would hope that they did some testing here. But on this one, they know that this is probably going to be handled and used by a different clientele, potentially, and in a different fashion. And so it's geared more towards that. So they have a nice early lockup that's going to last you essentially forever. More delicate opening, a lot smoother. Overall, the action is just minty and nice. I would also say this one is a little unfair because this one is actually really, really smooth. Sometimes you get them smooth, sometimes you do not. Kind of just depends on the particular production knife you get. I've got another SMF that was not smooth at all. I've kind of broken it in now, but it's definitely not what I would call smooth. This one is quite smooth for a Strider. So a little bit of inconsistency on Striders depending on the batch and the particular knife and how it's made and all those things. Whereas on the mixed Strider custom, you're going to get a lot more consistency in what you get. They're all going to kind of feel and operate the same. So hopefully that kind of answers it. So not a huge amount of differences between the two, but it is a little different. It has a little different feel, a little different action, and of course the obvious stuff. So let me know down below, would you ever spring for something like this? Would you stick with something like this, or are you of the camp of Strider sucks and I would never buy a Strider and I don't want one? Let me know down below how you feel. All right, guys, take it easy. I'm out.